Welcome to another edition of 805 Sports Talk, and this week we're starting the show with the best area baseball player in Matt Sauer. He's had a tremendous senior season thus far. I've seen him make 2 starts the last couple of weeks, and on Tuesday against San Luis Obispo, which is the defending Pac-8 League champion, he was on top of his game with 9 strikeouts. He also had a couple base hits at the plate and made 2 great defensive plays. So I caught up with Matt afterwards, and he tells me about, how he's approaching the season. He is a senior. He has committed to play for Arizona, but I've heard some news that he may get drafted highly in June at the MLB draft, and there's been a few scouts at every one of his starts.
Matt Sauer is doing just about everything right in 2017. Whether it's striking out batters, he had 9 against Slow on Tuesday and 11 against AG last week, or fielding his position, which he had a pair of nice plays in Tuesday's 6-1 win over Slow.
Get that! Hey, come and get it! Come get it! Go! Oh, watch behind you! Good job, Matt! Good job!
And even though there are a number of scouts at every one of his starts, nothing has fazed the senior.
Oh yeah, this season I have complete confidence in the team. That what coach puts out there behind me, it gives me confidence just to groove the zone and let them hit it and let them work. And we just have a winning mentality right now, so it's good.
Sauer says the only thing that matters to him right now is winning.
Now, I could see it, but I don't worry about it. I just want to win. This year, we have all the confidence from last year, and we're just better this year. So everyone on the team has confidence. Even the guys on the bench are over there cheering on. They're ready to make a run this year.
Whether Sauer is selected in the MLB draft in June or follows through on his commitment to pitch for Arizona, this is likely his final season playing the field and getting in some at-bats for his team.
How about that? I love just playing baseball, so anytime I get out on that field, I love it, so it's good.
So we'll move from the baseball diamond to the track. Lorenzo, you saw the Lompoc and Cabrillo meet last week, and you've been highlighting some of the top area track and field athletes, especially from the Lompoc Valley. Who are some ones to keep an eye on so far this year?
Being a former track athlete, I love this time of year, and I mean, all 4 teams are stacked in talent. Starting with Lompoc High, Shamar Savage, we hear that name a lot on the football field. Well, he's putting together a really, really fine season in the 100-meter hurdles. Isaac Acosta, it looks like he's picking up from where he left off from the fall season when he made state for cross country. He's been dominant in both the 1600 and 3200. On the girls' side, Kylie Yanez in the 100-meter hurdles, and then you got Cassidy Cunningham as well, has put together really solid seasons. Siobhan Garrett is putting together a really strong outing out on the Froze side. However, though, Remy Coleman, a name that might not be a household name on the Lompoc High track roster, she actually won the shot put event at the Cabrillo meet, so she's been in high spirits there. One guy I'm going to keep an eye on the Lompoc side, Anthony Manahan. I mean, I've been told that he's a novice when it comes to track and field, but it looks as if when you see him on the track, it looks as if that he's been doing this for 10 years because he's just been flat out just torching people, just kicks into high gear, and he's really put together a very solid season on the sprint side. As far as Cabrillo is concerned, Elliott Stern is a name that I can think of who looks like a strong LPL contender. She's the last leg in the 4x100 relays. Also handles herself well in the triple jump, so I'm thinking 1 or 2 of those sports would be like one of those like league chase sort of things for Tolik. Haley Batty, Kim Deming, I mean, they're common names on the girls' side. And one of the things that Russ French had mentioned is that the Cabrillo girls, they're tired of seeing the guys always win the championships when it comes to track. They're pretty bent and they're pretty focused on winning those championship T-shirts and just coming home with some LPL trophies. Last athlete I could think of is Ty Hernandez in the hurdles. He actually beat out Dallas Canley of Lompoc, who actually is a very strong hurler on his end, and Hernandez is only a sophomore, got the call to go up to varsity, and he's already responding in a very high way.
Now, what's interesting looking at these players that you listed is that they're, mainly multi-sport athletes. You mentioned Anthony Manahan. I think this is what his third sport. He's playing football.
Yeah.
He had a good basketball season. Now he's out here in track and field. Shamar Savage, football, track and field kind of guy. Is that something that's really, kind of driven home at Lompoc and Cabrillo, having, guys come out? They're going to play their, fall, winter sports, and then spring comes around. They want them out for track and field, or are they just have dynamic athletes like that at Lompoc?
No,
Where do you think that comes from?
I mean, judging from what I've seen in years past and growing up in the area, I mean, I think it's embedded in both Lompoc and Cabrillo athletes, and it's kind of imperative to do another sport. In fact, I should also mention this name, Toa is also doing track and field at Lompoc High as well. Now, a lot of it obviously stems from the fact that sometimes football athletes or basketball athletes still take up track just to stay in shape. But then you got the ones who do so well that they end up making that league and that maybe even that section title run. So, I've seen that at Lompoc. I've also seen that at Cabrillo because Tolik is a soccer star.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she's having a very, very dominant run so far this season. And Isaac Everett as well, a valuable contributor to the basketball team. Now he's picking up where he left off in the jumps for Cabrillo.
Yeah, I think we've seen that in the past, too, with Lompoc and Cabrillo kind of have their guys coming out for track just to stay in shape, and then you find out that this guy's a really great athlete. I think Nico Hayes is one from Lompoc a couple of years ago. He made it to state in, I think, the 300 hurdles. His brother also ran track and played football at Lompoc, so it's fun to see, they use that to just stay in shape, and then you find out, wow, this kid is actually a really good track athlete. So, I could see Shamar kind of being one of those guys just because he might be the most athletic kid at that school, maybe in the Lompoc Valley, with the way he plays football, and I'm sure he's probably a great track athlete with some of the things that he can do out there. Moving away from the Lompoc Valley, we've seen a bunch of track and field athletes contribute this year, and one that I thought was interesting is Kylie Mendez over there at Napomo. Great basketball season. I think Elliott even covered her signing to San Diego Christian. And then she's a great sprinter, having a great sprinting season for Napomo girls team, which seems to be maybe one of the better teams in the LPL. They might win the league championship. That'll be an interesting team race to keep an eye on. Garrett Morgan actually edged out Isaac Acosta in the 1600 and the 3200 race, at a league meet, a three-way league meet earlier this year. That was kind of surprising because Isaac's probably been the most dominant distance runner on the male side in the area for the last couple of years. To see a guy like Garrett Morgan step up for Napomo has been huge, and some athlete that we really don't give a lot of credit to, we haven't brought a lot of attention to her, is Emily Donahue at Santa Ynez. I think she ran at the Meet of Champions down south last weekend, and she had a really good showing, hit a lifetime PR in the 3200, about 6 seconds under 11 minutes, which is huge for her. So I think we definitely have some great track and field athletes in the area. Lompoc Valley is really known for that, but Santa Ynez also has some great ones, and of course here in the Santa Maria Valley we have some great track and field athletes. So it's a fun time of year to kind of spotlight those kids and what they do, during the spring.
I've been keeping an eye on some of these kids. You didn't mention Matt Tabor, a hurdle runner for Cabrillo, who's actually having a really good season. Acosta, you mentioned him, but he just won the 2 mile at the Easter Relays. And Caleb Minette from St. Joe, a sprinter running the hundreds and the 4x100 relays. He's having a fine season. So there's a lot of good kids. And, a lot of times Arroyo Grande is a team from the Pac-8 that shines because they have especially their throwers and their jumpers, and high jumpers and pole vaulters. But there's teams here that are going to keep up with them. And St. Joe's is a small school, but they got a lot of good kids out there on the track. And I've been pretty impressed with Minette, the way he's been running early in the year. And there's a guy that it's college, but I want to make sure we give him some recognition. Brent Dionisio from Hancock College. This kid is 5 feet 9 inches tall, and he is high jumping. He did 6 feet 8 at Antelope Valley and 6 feet 9 at a Cal Poly Invitational, where he was going against 4-year college Division I players, and he won both of those. He's jumping a full foot over his height. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
One of the things we talk about like some of the great football athletes, basketball, baseball athletes that have come through this area. There really is a good lineage of track athletes from this area. You could go as far north to Atascadero. Chelsea Johnson was an outstanding track athlete who went on to UCLA. And then in this area, I mean, obviously you hear the name Dwayne Solomon a lot, but you know, one other, you mentioned Arroyo Grande, Elliott. I remember one prominent name who was a thrower at AG, went on to the University of Arizona, Sean Shields, got a chance to also compete in the track against him. And, you know, the guy would actually get mad when he would throw 200 feet and he didn't break the record. That's how competitive he was.
Yeah, you mentioned AG and throwers. You can't leave out Stephanie Brown, Stephanie Brown Trafton, who won a gold medal, I think, in 2008 in the discus. So
China,
she's a legitimate thrower. So yeah, I remember, I think it was 2012 where we were just glued to the TV screens with Dwayne Solomon running. Stephanie Brown Trafton was throwing during the Summer Olympics, and of course we had Cammie Craig playing water polo. I think we had another one or two athletes that were, you know, really good on the track and field events during the 2012 Olympics. So that was really fun to see. So yeah, I think there definitely is, you know, a legit line of and history of track and field athletes. So it's cool to highlight them a little bit this week. I'm sure once the league stuff starts coming down, the league meet and stuff like that, we'll definitely spotlight them a little more. But we do like to cover track and field and you know give them the coverage they deserve. Elliott, you've been covering the Roundtable, and it was an interesting event once again this week as Rigetti actually swept the male and female athlete of the week awards.
The Roundtable, the last couple of months, has had huge crowds. I've been going there for 16 years now, and there's a lot of times there's 20 or 30 people, but they've been 60 or up to 80 one week. It's just a huge crowds are coming out. But this week it was Rigetti that swept the awards. We talk about Matt Sauer with Rigetti pitching, and he is probably the best pitcher between here and maybe Los Angeles. He's just an outstanding pitcher. But they have another pitcher, Mitchell Bagby, who pitched a complete game shutout, a six-hitter against Arroyo Grande. And they swept Arroyo Grande last week, 3 wins, and he won 1-0, and he was the male athlete of the week last week for that effort over an always tough Arroyo Grande team. And on the girls' side, it was Delaney Wiz, Rigetti softball player. She had a game where she had 3 home runs, 8 runs batted in, and scored 5 times. And she went 6 for 7 over the course of 2 games last week, and it was she got a grand slam, a solo home run, and a double in a 12-5 win over Atascadero. Drove in 7 runs in that game. So she is the female athlete of the week. And I caught up with her and asked her just what she thought about winning the award.
It's pretty cool. I've been wanting to win this award since I was probably a freshman, so it's really cool to win it as a senior after a great week. We're doing pretty good. We started off the season with a loss against AG, and that was pretty rough, but we came back against Atascadero, and we beat them 12-5, so I think we have a lot of momentum going into the rest of our season. Our team, we have a lot of chemistry. A lot of us grew up playing together, so we all just know each other from childhood, and yeah, I love playing with my team.
So congratulations to both Mitchell Bagby and Delaney Wiz for winning Athlete of the Week, and they're high school baseball and softball players, but the Little League season is actually underway, and the Babe Ruth season is about to kick off. If they can get their fields together. They're working on them right now. They're hoping Santa Maria and Orcutt Babe Ruths are hoping to kick off their season this coming weekend. Now Orcutt Babe Ruth plays over at Morrison Field. It's off of the old Auto Center Drive and Skyway, not far from the newspaper here. And that field's been in pretty rough shape the last few years. And they've got a new president of their Orcutt Babe Ruth, Bryn Smith, who is determined to turn that around. They're going to do it. They're actually started a renovation project. They put in major league type fencing at their major field. They're redoing the mounds, the base paths, home plate area for both fields right now. They want to get the infield and outfield. If you look at them, you talk about home field advantage, but nobody has an advantage on those fields because they're just so bumpy. The grass grows in clumps, and it's not a smooth infield or outfield. So they're trying to fix that and get that into good shape by the time the season begins. And Bryn actually is out there every day because he's got a long-range plan, a 5-year plan to change this from just a ballpark into a special place for kids to play.
These are the field of hopes and dreams. They've been here forever, and right now they're laying silent. It's time again to wake it up. It's pretty simple. It's America's pastime. It's baseball. It's what it should be. So we're here to start with the fields. If you build it, they will come, and I truly believe that. And so this is where we're at. This is the starting stage right now, and hopefully in a couple of years, this will be that field of dreams.
So Bryn wants to turn that into the field of hopes and dreams. He was a 13-year major leaguer with the Montreal Expos, St. Louis Cardinals, Colorado Rockies. So he knows a little bit about baseball. And one of the things that he and I talked about was the jump from Little League to Babe Ruth. That means you go from a 40-foot pitcher's mound to a 60-foot 6-inch pitcher's mound between the ages of 12 and 13. And we see regularly that the kids have a whole lot of trouble handling that extra distance when they turn 13. So that all of a sudden it's like they're back at minor league, Little League again. They have trouble fielding the ball. They have trouble throwing the ball to the plate. And Bryn was telling me they have, when he was a kid, they had what was called a middle league, Babe Ruth Middle League, so that when you came up from Little League, your first year you had a 50-foot pitcher's mound, and the infields were a little bit bigger than Little League, but not quite as big as they are in major leagues, and the Babe Ruths play on major league dimensions. So what they want to do is build a third field over there and make that a middle league field, and he's got interest from Santa Maria Babe Ruth and from other Babe Ruths down to like Thousand Oaks that would love to come here to play middle league tournaments. So 13-year-olds would have a year to make that transition from the smaller Little League field to the full-size Major League field that they play at 13. They would be able to wait a year and play that at 14, and he thinks that would give them a year to learn play on a bigger field, get their arms stronger as pitchers and as fielders, because you're going to throw greater distances. The catchers, the outfielders, everybody he thinks would benefit from it. So his plan over the course of the next 5 years is to completely renovate the major league fields. They have 2 of those. Add a middle league field, add a practice field, and then add batting cages, and then start to stage tournaments in July every year and attract not the state championships, which come up after that, but attract all-star type teams from all over the state. He thinks it's going to be a big thing. It would be a benefit to the league, a benefit to the area. And he's talked to the president of Babe Ruth Little League in Santa Maria, Stacy Newby, and he's all for it. They've got a much nicer field to play on because they play on Elks Field, but there's a space right next to Elks Field that used to be a Little League field. It's not really being used much, and they could convert that one into a Middle League field. So we have 2 of our Babe Ruth leagues that are going to push that and see if they can get Lompoc on board, Arroyo Grande on board. Then it's a matter of expanding out. We get Hanford and places like that, the Lemoore that come here for the end of season tournaments. So he'd like to make this into a really big deal and go back to the traditions. Santa Maria baseball traditions go back 100 years, and he'd like to bring a lot of that back and put us back on the map. So
it's cool that you mentioned that Bryn wants to bring that middle league Babe Ruth in, because I know, I played at Northside in Santa Maria. My majors is what it was, Little League, and then moving up to the Babe Ruth, that was a huge jump for me as a 13-year-old. I was a pitcher in Little League, and then I tried, pitching as a 13-year-old at Elks Field, and that was it was just, night and day. I was pretty much, probably lost like major velocity on my fastball, barely, able to get it over there. I still hadn't fully developed. So I think, that would be great for a lot of kids who need that middle ground between, Little League, where you're playing on those dimensions, and moving up to 60 feet 6 inches, which is what the major league level is. And it's kind of interesting that they're going to bring that here. And I know it's kind of hard to find that balance, because there are going to be kids who are ready for that, 66 inches, playing on 90-foot base paths and stuff like that. But it's good for those who aren't quite there yet to have that middle ground. So that'll be really cool to see, and hopefully that does take off, and that is an offering here on the Central Coast, and I think a lot of kids would benefit from that. And
since he's retired from baseball, he's still been involved in it here on the Central Coast. He's coached at Hancock. He's the freshman coach over at St. Joe right now, where his son Cody is the head coach of the varsity team. And Cody had a minor league career as a pitcher and could really throw some smoke, but you never know what it's going to take to get you to the big leagues. And we've seen kids like Ryan Church make it as an outfielder, and Bill Seamus, St. Joseph High School grad, was a pitcher with the White Sox organization. So it can't. And Danny Duffy, of course, is right now one of the better pitchers in the major league. Opening day starter for the Royals, a World Series champion, just pitched in the World Baseball Classic. So, I mean, you can be a major leaguer from Santa Maria, but Bryn's concern is that the kids are throwing their arms out. They're pitching, they're playing all year. We were talking at the beginning of this about all those 3-sport or 2-sport athletes at schools like Lompoc and Cabrillo, and other schools have that too. And he thinks that there's just too much emphasis on playing all year, these club teams, and teaching kids how to throw the heater, so that all they care about is now the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. That's the thing. It's a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And Bryn pitched 13 excellent years in the major leagues, and his high heater was about 84 miles an hour. So you don't have to be a smoking pitcher. He teaches the science of pitching, in and out, up and down, high and tight, low and away, get him to chase bad pitchers, throwing these sinker balls that end up in the dirt that would be a ball, but you just sucker them into swinging at them. And there's so much more to baseball, and that's what he's teaching our kids here now at the Babe Ruth level, that you can succeed without a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Yeah. You don't have to throw your arm out at 14 years old.
Yeah, and that takes us to our next topic. You mentioned Danny Duffy, getting the nod for opening day, which was big news. That's his first opening day start. It's going to be his first opening day start. I think they play at Minnesota April 3rd. So congrats to Duffy, and that got me thinking. Where do you think where do you think he's going to rank among the top major leaguers from this area? Obviously, Rob Ventura probably tops that list, but we've had some great players. You mentioned Ryan Church. Bryn Smith probably isn't technically from the area exactly, but he had a good career.
He went to Santa Maria High School.
A good long career. Bryn Smith. Doug Bernier's been right on the cusp of the major leagues. Hasn't quite got there.
He's a great guy. He should be. He's going to be I predict he's going to be like a Tommy Lasorda, with not much of a major league career, but a heck of a major league manager. You've got Casey Candell up in from Arroyo Grande. I mean, there's a lot of people that have made the majors from here. But Robin is the class. He's a college Hall of Famer. He's still got the record hitting streak in college. He would have been a major league Hall of Famer if he hadn't broken his ankle and it took a lot away from his game. But he still had a wonderful career. Robin Ventura has more Grand Slam home runs than Babe Ruth. So he was a great ball player. Duffy could be second to him. He could pass him, if it depends on how long he can maintain this level of excellence.
And I think that's the other thing too, is that when we really look at it, Duffy really is at the prime of his career. And so I feel like that this is more of a conversation we probably should have like 5-10 years down the road when his career unwinds or it comes to an end. But I mean, I'm with you. Like, Robin Ventura right now to me is like at that top of the food chain. Just not only his contributions in the MLB, but just what he's done for Santa Maria, what he's done for the 805, especially when he wore that Rigetti uniform.
Well, and he's not done. He still lives here. And he has promised Bryn that he'll come out and help him with the Babe Ruth kids. Since he's not managing the White Sox right now, he can do that. So he's going to take some time and work with the Babe Ruth kids. But, even Casey Candell's mother was, they made that movie Field of Dreams, where she was a star player for the women's All-American baseball when they played during World War II. So it's not just the men that have gone on to successful careers. And There's a girl from Rigetti who went on to win College World Series, and now she's back coaching.
Tracy Compton.
Tracy Compton. And so it's not just the boys that have gone on to good careers, so we should throw them in the mix too.
Well, you mentioned Delaney Wiz. I mean, she's going to a pretty good place right after her career wraps up, Loyola Marymount, which actually is a pretty good softball school. So
yeah, her older sister Stevie's at UCLA right now, and I think she wants to become a neurosurgeon or study medicine. So definitely some great lineage over there with that family, with what Stevie's gone through, and to get to UCLA. She was a walk-on at UCLA, fought her way onto the program, and Delaney has a scholarship, ride to LMU, which is good for her, but definitely some good softball playing, good baseball playing in the area, and especially in that Wiz family. Moving on to our final topic for this week is the Raiders relocation. Obviously, we love the local sports, but we do keep an eye on everything that's happening nationally, and of course, the Raiders, a California team, I guess not for too much longer, is moving to Las Vegas. Just want to know your guys' thoughts on that. Is it a good thing? I think everybody was known huge Raider fans in this area, a lot of Raider fans in this area. Do you think it's going to be good for them to get away, get out of that Coliseum, or do you think it's a bad trend in the NFL to see so many teams shifting to new areas?
Well, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot more shifting now that this is done. It's all about the stadiums.
yeah.
The stadiums are guaranteed to make you rich, and if you can get public financing to help you with the stadium deal, even better. Now, there's a lot of people up in Oakland that are upset. I know the most famous local Raiders fan was the former Lieutenant Governor Abel Maldonado, former Santa Maria mayor in the State House and the State Senate, and then Lieutenant Governor under Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's devastated that his beloved Raiders are leaving, but how much longer are you going to talk with Oakland? And they got nowhere until the used to say 11th hour. It was more like 11:59 p.m. They're out of time, and all of a sudden Oakland comes up with what the Commissioner Roger Goodell said was an inferior plan. But if you look at some of these complexes that they built that are like the Dallas Cowboys complex, and the newer stadiums that have opened, the one that they're building in Los Angeles, it's going to be more than just a football stadium. How much longer could Oakland wait? And they had a viable offer from Las Vegas. They'll share the stadium with the UNLV, and they play Saturdays, and of course college football they'll play other nights, but I'm sure they'll work it out. If the Raiders have a Thursday night game, then UNLV will not have a Thursday night game that week. They'll play Friday or Saturday. But they're going to a city known for its glitz and glitter, a city that's grown a lot. They talked about gambling, but people gamble on football in every city of the country. It doesn't have to be Vegas. Vegas has legal books. You can go into a casino and place a bet legally, but they're betting on football everywhere, so it's not just a Vegas thing. So I think that Mark Davis and the Raiders waited as long as they could, and when they didn't get any progress and Las Vegas jumped on board and said, well, we want you, they had to go with it. And I'm sorry that Oakland fans are upset, but then you should be upset with your local leaders for waiting too long and too little too late. They had years to do this. They're the only team that plays in a Major League Baseball park. You see the early part of the season when the Oakland A's are still playing, you see that the 50-yard line is second base. And so you go from grass to dirt to grass again. They can't like that at all. You get tackled in that dirt. Nobody likes to get tackled because that's not fun, getting knocked down and having people pile on you. But in that gravel-like dirt of the infield, I'm thinking that the Raiders have done the right thing, and there's so many people, not just residents of Las Vegas, but visitors to Las Vegas, that they'll fill that stadium.
Not only that, I'm with you 100%. The people who take the biggest L's is that government in Oakland, because they had, 15 years to keep the Raiders in Oakland? And, just the plans didn't fall through. And here's another thing to keep in mind. Oracle Arena is about to get empty because the Golden State Warriors are transitioning over to San Francisco and a state-of-the-art arena that oversees the Bay Bridge. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that the city of Oakland failed to keep the Warriors in O-Town. So, I mean, I do feel for some of the fans in Oakland because they've seen this movie before. They've seen Oakland leave for LA, then they come back. Now they're leaving for Las Vegas because of how cash-strapped Oakland really is. Well, I mean, the real blame in this particular situation, it's really not the fans. It's the city. It's the government officials and how they were able to just, I mean, basically let an opportunity slip away in keeping that team in the city of Oakland.
Yeah, well, just 2 quick points on that. I think it's good for the people, for the taxpayers, to stand up and say they don't want to pay for the stadium. They shouldn't. You know, you look at other countries, you know, the UK, you know, publicly financed stadiums, soccer stadiums are kind of pretty much unheard of. So it's good that the taxpayers don't want to pay for it. You know, the NFL could step in, help, you know, fund a stadium, I guess, you know, help Mark Davis, you know, maybe some type of loan, some type of situation where the taxpayers do not have to pay, you know, for these stadiums. We've seen privately financed stadiums in the NFL. I think MetLife Stadium in New York was all private money, and that's in a huge market like New York where, you know, real estate is huge. That was like $2 billion stadium. So if New York City can do that, or, you know, whatever metropolitan area that the stadium is actually in, if they can do it, you know, privately, I'm sure, you know, some financiers or somebody in Oakland or in the Bay Area could get that solved and pay for the stadium, but they just didn't want to. So it's good that the taxpayers, you know, kind of declined the option, didn't want to pay for it, so they left. And that was kind of a, you know, the only reason to keep them really is sentimentality. You know, there's really no economic boost for hosting an NFL team. There's probably a small one, but it's not as big as it's made up to be. So good for them to deny that. And then next thing is going to be fun to see, you know, the first player arrested in a Las Vegas casino, you know, playing at the Raiders or playing for the Raiders. I don't know if they're going to stay at the MGM Grand or what, but that's got to be a crazy scene to have those NFL teams, you know, hosting players and stuff like that.
You know, it's funny you mention how Las Vegas is this glitz and glamour town, and sure it is, but there also is that renegade side of Las Vegas. So guess who fits in right away? The Raiders. Hence also why UNLV is called the Rebels. I mean, rebellious.
Well, and to your point, it is in some ways a real shame that the NFL's been able to hold up communities for taxpayer money, and that, with, you know, L.A., New York, Dallas, they built their own stadiums, their own $2 billion megaplexes, and they don't have to ask anybody for anything because of course but all NFL teams are valuable. And Davis just didn't want to because he's seen so many other places where the city will, or the state will jump in with money. But even so, they had years to make this, but they didn't come up with it. And even if they'd said, let's work on a plan where you finance it, but they had trouble even getting a location to put this thing. And now they're just going to put it, whatever it is they said they're going to put on the other side of the parking lot. But, you know, again, they just came up late with a plan that the NFL said wasn't viable. That doesn't mean if they'd done it earlier, they could have said, let's work out the kinks and let's make this work, because the fans are the ones getting hurt, and they love their Raiders. I mean, some of the most rabid fans are Raiders. You can go to a game in Buffalo on Sunday, walk up to a ticket window and buy a seat. That not all of cities support their teams the way Oakland has over the years. The people dress up like crazies, but you know, bottom line is it's a business, and Mark Davis is doing what's best for him in the business.
I've been in Oakland a few times, and I can honestly tell you, if you were to compare the A's and Raiders and ask this question, which team truly brings out Oakland's identity, it's the silver and black. And it was like that in LA when the Raiders were down there, because I mean, the Raiders were kind of took on that affluent Orange County aspect of LA, whereas the Raiders brought in that scrapper image. That's why, business boomed in LA when they were down there.
Yeah, and we'll see if, you know, Oakland will host the Raiders. I think there's kind of a gap in 2019 where the Raiders aren't for sure where they're going to play that year. It might be in UNLV Stadium. You know, I'm sure Oakland won't want to host them for one last season before they move to Las Vegas. I'm sure there'll be some animosity there. So it will be fun to see how that all plays out. But that's all we got for this week. Thank you guys for tuning into 805 Sports Talk. Be sure to check out the Santa Maria Times every day of the week, and the Lompoc Record, and online, of course. Follow myself and Lorenzo on Twitter. Thank you guys for tuning in.